So Arthur Hayes says that Bitcoin is going to $3.4 million by 2028. Should we take this as fact? Obviously not. But let's go back in history a little bit to see what Arthur Hayes has done with his Ethereum bag, which he ended up selling a massive portion of his Ethereum, during that drop to $1,500. He kind of panic sold, right? And then it proceeded to go to $4,800 and something dollars to all-time highs. And he ended up buying back much higher. And so he's kind of one of those guys that chases prices. That is not a wise thing to do, but here we go. He's been right in the past, okay? Sometimes we're right, sometimes we're wrong. Anyone can be right, anybody could be wrong at any given time, okay? But we can make an educated guess on where Bitcoin might be heading this cycle, especially this month, all right? So check this out. This is a great tweet. Historically, Bitcoin tops around 500 plus days after the halving. So let's go back in history. You can kind of see where we could potentially top. In 2016, July 9th of 2016 was the halving, okay? It took 526 days for the cycle to peak after that, okay? Let's go back to May 11th, 2020. It took 548 days for that cycle to peak. Now, this time around, where are we in this cycle? Okay, so we are right now, April 19th, 2024 with the halving, okay? So 500 days plus would be October 2025. So if Bitcoin is historically in the realm of being normal, this cycle, it would be this month. And so am I thinking it's going to be this month? Probably not now, because I'm looking at sentiment. Because right now people are depressed, but things can change really fast. And that can change within a week, a couple days, couple weeks. It doesn't, who knows? Nobody knows exactly when this blow off top is going to happen. But I think that we can go back in history and say, yeah, there's going to be a blow off top, and there's going to be a gnarly bear market, which is why you're going to be wanting to take some profits. We've already taken profits. I've been very open with that. I've gotten a lot of heat, but you know what? It took me 13 years of holding Bitcoin to end up selling 30% of my stash of Bitcoin. But I still have 70% and I still have more Bitcoin than I started with. Go figure. It's because I buy during bear markets. I buy when people hate this space. When FTX collapsed, people absolutely hated this space. I was almost embarrassed to say, yeah, I'm involved with, we run a crypto show called Crypto Tips. It was embarrassing almost, and that is when you want to buy, because that's when we're close to a bottom. And lo and behold, $15,500 was the bottom. We were ended up buying around 21,000 down to like 16,000, and I didn't catch the very bottom. You know what? Anybody that says they got the very bottom, they're lying. Okay, so now let's go over to the government shutdown. Now this is kind of funny. Okay, so now you have the U.S. government will shut down at midnight as Congress has failed to pass a funding bill. This would furlough 750,000 workers per day, costing $400 million in daily compensation. So you're paying for a government that was too lazy, too inefficient, and couldn't do their job in the first place, and you're rewarding them with compensation. Unbelievable. So here's all you need to know. I wrote a tweet this morning saying this. Not sure who needs to hear this, but a government shutdown will not change your life in any way, okay? You will still owe taxes to pay for a government that shut down, essentially. And it didn't really shut down. The IRS is still going to exist. The military-industrial complex is still going to exist. The CIA is still going to exist. And all these other organizations, you're going to be paying so much money, especially with the amount of inflation that the Federal Reserve, that's not shutting down, they're going to print so much currency during this time. It's going to be unbelievable. Okay, so now with that said, let's go on to the chance of a rate cut in October now reaches 89.3%. What does this mean? It just means that your dollar, if you're a US citizen, the US dollar is going to be devalued big time even further. This is what rate cuts do. They devalue your currency. Not only are you getting smashed with inflation for the Federal Reserve is printing and printing, printing lots of currency, but you're also getting rate cuts and other things that are hurting the US dollar, which is great for Bitcoin. This is very, very good for Bitcoin. And thank goodness that we have this escape hatch, all right? So now foreign central banks also now own more gold than US Treasuries for the first time in almost 30 years. What does this mean? It means that foreign countries are actually deciding, you know what, we're gonna chill out on buying US debt. We don't really trust these guys anymore, and we're gonna start buying a bit more gold, which is kind of funny because gold is hitting all-time highs while they're doing that. They should have bought when prices were lower. Even countries fail to buy low and sell high. It's ridiculous, okay? Everybody and their mother wants higher prices to buy. Nobody wants a deal, very few of us, except us at learningcrypto.com. We definitely like cheaper prices, and we love it when people hate this space because it creates incredible buying opportunities. Now, we also have global debt hitting all-time high of $338 trillion. So I actually did some notes on this, all right? So 1 million seconds is 11 days. A billion seconds is 31 years. A trillion seconds is 31,700 years, okay? This is how much the US government is printing about every 80 days now. And that number is going to continue to get much, much worse. That is why I'm pleading with people, get yourself inflation hedges, share videos like this so that you can educate your friends and family members about inflation, because school's not going to teach it. TV is not going to teach it. Fox News, CNBC, all those other stupid channels, they're not going to teach this. 99% of the crypto channels out there are not going to teach this stuff. You need to learn about inflation. You need to learn about your enemy called the Federal Reserve. And that is why we at learningcrypto.com spend so much time trying to educate people so that we can guide people through inflation, so that we can actually chill, relax, retire earlier, and actually have a nice life. Like Heidi and I, we travel the world together. It's really nice because we don't have to worry about keeping up with inflation. We already have that down pat, okay? And that is why we want to educate others. Anyways, that's all I have. Like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe. Talk to you soon.